Jordan, real pleasure to have you on the show, man. Like, there's a lot of ground to cover. I find you have a very interesting company. Obviously, I want to say very made for the modern age that we live in today, particularly when it comes to retail. So, obviously, you're co-founder, co-president of Obibox. So, I think maybe a natural place to start will be is what is Obibox?
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to answer all questions about entrepreneurship and of course about the company as well. And like you said, it's delivery is one of the oldest businesses to be in, I think, but still very relevant. And in today's day and age, customer expectations have never been higher, and so you need a 2023 solution to respond accurately to those expectations. And that's kind of what prompted the creation of the company. So let's go back to 2016. It all started with a conversation between myself and my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, who's currently the CTO of the company, where he had a particularly bad delivery experience. And we just started talking about how horrible delivery experiences were and how Amazon was kind of reinventing, elevating customer experience, and how traditional transporters were having a hard time keeping up with what Amazon was offering consumers. And we said, hey, let's build a technological platform that offered an Uber style experience for last mile delivery, and then let's try to sell that technological platform to the main shippers, so to Canada Post, to FedEx, to UPS. So that was our initial dream back in 2016. That's how it all started.
That's a great story. I love the entrepreneurial story where it's like, like 2016 is like it's one of those like good timing also, like to be in the space to launch something. What's the business model? So how do you make money simply, right? So I imagine you partner like some of your customers are like Altitude Sport, other retailers. Yeah, explain this a little bit deeper how the business model works, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and actually, the that answer is also tied into kind of our story. So 2016, we're setting out to create a technological platform that we're going to sell as a SaaS company to the major transporters. And then we realized pretty quickly that we actually didn't know all that much about last mile logistics. So we needed to learn. Before we had a product that we could confidently go to FedEx and UPS and say, hey guys, we have this amazing product for you. We needed to make sure that it responded to the real needs of the end users. So the recipients, the shippers, and the drivers. So what we did was we said, hey, let's create an operational side to the technological business and then use the feedback from the ops side to basically build our tech and at the same time kind of bootstrap the company. So I'm going to say in summer of 2017, we had a functional MVP. So our technological platform was built. We had a routing system, we had a driver app, we had a shipping app. And at that point, we started to bring on customers, we started to bring on drivers, and basically started to test our technological platforms. So, kind of from the get go, we were actually building two businesses, although we didn't see it that way at the time. We were building a tech company on one side, an operational company on the other side. The ops side would basically provide constructive feedback to the tech side and also finance the development of the technology. And that's kind of how the business evolved from 2016 to 2020. And so let's fast forward to 2020. At that point, we're covering the greater Montreal. We're sort of in an Uber style model where it's all on demand pickup and all on demand delivery. So we're dealing with a lot of local merchants, so bakeries, florists, basically your local shop that wants something delivered from point A to point B. So more of a point to point system, I guess. But at that point, we have about 350 active customers. 150 active customers, about 350 drivers on our platform. And it really is more of an Uber style model. And then suddenly the pandemic hits. And I mean, as an entrepreneur, we always create business plans and refine business plans, but nobody can predict a global pandemic. And I remember very vividly uh, Friday the 13th, March 2020, when the entire province, the entire world basically went into lockdown. And all of a sudden, there was no more foot traffic. So brick and mortar retailers suddenly needed a way to connect with their customers. And that's when everything changed in the world of Obibox, basically.
So walk us through then how, yeah, I was gonna say maybe before my question, it's like, yeah, you brought back some like really, scar tissue in terms of that particular date that's kind of seared into my mind. But yeah, and then so walk us through how the business model changed, right? Because you went from like say Uber style, and then everyone's kind of like, it's illegal to leave your house. So it's like demand must have skyrocketed at that point, right? So like what happened to the business at that moment in time?
Yeah, I remember. I think it was, I guess, on the 12th, because it was a day before everything went onto lockdown, and we had one of my good buddies, one of the founders of a company called Miss Fresh. They formerly sold to Cookit. Bernard Prévost was helping us out sort of as an interim CFO, and his background is finance, right? So risk management and everything. And I remember him phoning me up and saying, "Hey, Jordan, what's happening right now with this whole COVID thing is really serious." And I wasn't too sure. I was more focused kind of on the minutia of running my business, as opposed to, I mean, I kept hearing COVID, 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 but I didn't realize what was actually happening. And when Bernard phones me up and says, "No, this is really serious," and I start to pay attention to what was going on in the news, and what was coming in from China and what was going on in the US, and I kind of realized, okay, there's something big happening. And then the next day, that's when everybody went into lockdown. So at that point, I would say we kind of downshifted and shifted our business into overdrive and said, okay, we're going to be a local solution for local businesses. And that's really how we positioned Xpedigo. So right away, I put on my PR hat and just started soliciting all of the SDC, so the local merchant organizations, like of Saint Hubert, of Ville Saint Laurent, and just started Mont Royal and started contacting them and saying, guys, right now all your local commerces are going to be looking for a solution. We can really help them out. Our solution is super easy to access, really easy to create an account. Our drivers are on the road. We're ready to help out. And we really kind of positioned ourselves as a solution for local merchants whose foot traffic had basically completely dried up. And then, so that was March, April, May, come into summer of 2020. At that point, people were really starting to understand sort of the realities of the new world that we were living in. And in those 150 customers, we had a couple of really large retailers. You mentioned a key one before, Altitude Sport. They came to us and they said, "Look, guys, we." Sorry, go ahead. Okay, they came to us and they said, "Hey, guys, we love your user experience, because again, going back to that Uber model, right? We offered real time tracking, 360-degree communication with our drivers between the customers and the recipients. So we really were offering sort of that real customized white glove service, but on a much larger parcel scale. And we were doing all that through the technology that we were developing. And they said, we love your customer experience. You guys are great for sort of same day shipping. But let's say right now that we give you guys 100 parcels in a day, you don't have a sorting facility. So if we give you guys 100 parcels, you guys are going to send 20 drivers to our dock to pick up 5, 10 parcels each and then go deliver them directly to the consumers. Makes sense for 100 parcels. But let's say we want to give you guys 1,000 or 5,000. It's not going to work. You need to send a big heavy truck, pick up the 5,000 parcels, bring them to a sorting facility, and then give them to your drivers from your own sorting facility. So at that point, we were kind of confronted with that proverbial pivot, right, in the entrepreneurial journey, where you kind of look at your business model and go, "This is what we've been doing. Does it work? And what has brought us here? Is it going to bring us to the next step?" So summer 2020, we made the decision to kind of pivot our business and go towards more of a traditional delivery model with sorting facilities, really beef up our operational infrastructure. And so, yeah, summer 2020, that's when we made that decision to go down that route.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love the pivot story where it's like the market kind of told you like what you need to do. So today you have a business that's not just like you said. There's two parts. There's a software piece, and then there's the operational piece, where it's where now you have facilities, you have drivers. But on the, I wanted to dive into the software piece after, but just talk about the logistics angle of it, right? So do you own your own fleet? You also partner with external drivers. Like how does that the operational side of the business look like today?
So yes to both of your questions. And as we kind of tell the story from 2016 to 2020, and then what happened between 2020 and 2022. So back to summer 2020, at that point, we realized that we need to pivot the business if we really want to kind of surf this growth wave that was coming our way. And so we kind of had two options. One was do it ourselves. So bring on a COO and start opening sorting facilities and develop the expertise and adjust our technology for more of a consolidation model where it's basically the two differences. It's a point to point delivery system or a hub and spoke delivery system. Hub and spoke where you bring everything to a hub and then sort it and then send it out. So the spokes become kind of the routes to the customers. So we were pivoting from a point to point model to a hub and spoke model. And as opposed to kind of creating all of that expertise internally, it would have taken a long time. We found a company again through a friend of a friend called Tekal Transport, and Tekal Transport were living a similar situation to us. They were also sort of in hyper growth, and they saw the opportunity in the industry. Um, Super focused on customer service, delivering 7 days a week, but they had taken a very different path than we had. They did not have technology, so they had developed the operational expertise, but they didn't have the tech. We had developed the tech, but we didn't have the operational expertise. So, from a business standpoint, there was a really interesting fit. And at that point, it was in August 2020 where we started sitting down the two sets of co-founders. So we were two on the Xpedigo side, two on the Tekal side, to see if there was a fit also at the upper level. And that's when Paul and I met Michael and Francois and realized that Paul's background is technology, my background is business development, and on the Tekal side, Michael's background is operations and Francois's background is finance. So the businesses needed each other. The founders, there was a really interesting complementary fit. And then we needed to make sure that we got along well. So we spent probably from September right up to December meeting once a week where we would basically sit down, shoot the shit, talk about our visions, our values, family, personal, business. And we just realized, okay, this is a match that needs to happen. And then December 2020, we actually merged our two businesses together. So Tekar and Xpedigo became Obibox. And then we spent the next 24 months, so ish, getting there almost, merging the two businesses. So to really become Obibox, we needed to do all sorts of adjustments on the operational side, the vision, the values of the business, reinvent the culture, rebrand as well, define our climate action plan, adjust our technology from a point to point model to a hub and spoke model. And at the same time, we were basically doubling our size year over year in terms of employees, in terms of revenue, transactional uh, uh, size as well. So it was a really intense 2 years. But today, though, one of the things that we can say is the four co-founders sitting around the table we're stronger than we've ever been. Our mechanisms to resolve conflict, to have serious, tough conversations is fantastic. We're lucky in that sense, I think. So yeah, long answer. I realize, but
I love that story. I love the entrepreneurial story of like, and it's what's the expression in French? L'union fait la force. You know, so like I don't strength in numbers, but in the sense of like, hey, instead of competing, let's work together, find a way, and it's like together we'll be bigger, right? So it's like, it's one of those like I don't want a big piece of a small pie. Let's grow as a team. So I love that story. In terms of the model, how would you compare it to let's say like an Intelcom? That's kind of like you see their trucks going around. Are they a partner, competitor? How do you how would you explain like simply the difference?
from an operational standpoint, I would say we're very similar to Intelcom. Intelcom runs their business as a hub and spoke model. Of course, their coverage is huge. Intelcom is coast to coast, and they built an amazing setup with Amazon as a huge partner. I mean, they were for a long time pretty well the only delivery partner for Amazon coast to coast, and they did an incredible job from I think 2015 up to 2022, establishing themselves as a national player. I take my hat off because what they built in the short amount of time that they built it is pretty incredible. So in terms of operational infrastructure, it's similar, I would say. So they deal with brokers, they deal with delivery partners. They have sorting facilities. I think they have a couple of fully automated sorting facilities as well in the last 12 months, 12 24 months. So a pretty cool model that they built. Where there's a pretty significant difference is that from a technological standpoint, we built our technology from scratch. Uh, what we did is not necessarily the easiest route. It's expensive to build technology. If you want to build good technology, you have to hire passionate, extremely smart people, which we're fortunate to have right now. And it's tough. It's not an easy route. Essentially, you're building two businesses at the same time. So you're building a technology business and an operational business. Both businesses are super competitive. Both businesses are tough. But the advantages that it's given us, though, to run our own software, it's I would say flexibility. So when a customer comes to us and says, "Hey, you know what would be really cool if we could offer this type of experience to our customer, or we have these types of constraints in our business, could you guys integrate that into your flow?" And we can kind of turn around and go, "Yeah, let's scope the project together, and then we'll integrate it into our development roadmap." It gives us an incredible amount of agility and flexibility in terms of what our customers need and expect from a software experience. So we really are a software company first. So that's what we always say. We say our DNA is software. Our DNA is technological, and we're kind of a tech-enabled operations company, I guess, in a sense, or a tech-driven last mile operations company. Anyway, there's a cooler sentence to say that, but you get the gist of it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, maybe talk about the opportunity for software a little bit because I love that angle, right? So it's taking like I want to say more traditional business, but then really augmenting it with the power of software, kind of like what I do at work, where it's like, hey, we have a consulting model, but also a platform and a software. Do you foresee the day where the software itself becomes scalable outside of Obibox that you could sell it to other transport providers, like sell it to Intelcom and sell it to other providers? Is that maybe a potential growth avenue for you?
That's a really cool question, and that has been a fundamental philosophical question that we've had pretty well from day one, pretty well from the moment that we started to have that sort of two-headed monster in our hands, where we have the operational side and the tech side, and then kind of wondering, right now the operation side is the only customer of our tech company, but does it have to stay that way? So one of the cool things is Paul, who is our CTO and one of the four co-founders, has a huge vision of where the technology can go. And from day one, he's been building the software component of our business as if it was a standalone SaaS company. So the way that we've built our architecture, the way that we've built our infrastructure with a microservice model, and I'm not going to elaborate into sort of the details of the technology because I'll probably say dumb things, and then Paul will tell me afterwards that I shouldn't have said that. But essentially, though, the way that it's built, the different modules that we built. So from the routing system to the driver app to the tracking portal, the shipping center, the bunch of API connectors, the internal management tools, the key performance indicators. All of that is kind of built in silos that speak to each other in APIs. So it's definitely conceivable, especially where we stand now, to take one or two of those modules, spin it off, white label it, and use it maybe in a different industry even. So example, and this is a total hypothetical example, but let's say I don't know, a large telecommunication company has 250 trucks on the road, and right now it's still a bunch of dispatchers that are going on Google Maps and entering addresses and kind of establishing their routes. Well, let's say we spin off our routing engine with our tracking software, white label it, and say, hey guys, you can use this to track your fleet of technicians on the road and use it for your own use and then monetize it that way. It's 100% conceivable. And it's kind of what we're talking about right now at this point in time.
Yeah, fascinating, fascinating. Why I love the idea itself is because you guys are like battle tested the software with like the real world use case of like hundreds of routes a day, right? So it's like it's not like, hey, we're gonna build a startup and then figure out how the market works. It's like how the market works. You're doing it every single day, right? So I think that's a really powerful like potential growth avenue as you mentioned. I think one of the things we talked about and that you've been public about is also the operational side and gaining efficiencies there and like decarbonizing obviously the fleet of trucks, right? So electrifying the trucks, which is going to a certain extent adding more technology, but it comes with its load of challenges, right? Like as we know, like electric vehicles it's not easy. Like as an owner of electric vehicle, it's not like, hey, plug and play. Like it's a little bit more complex. But with the gas prices today, I'm very, very happy as an electric car owner. How do you see the strategy at a macro level? Because it's still early. I know you've said like by 2030, we want to have 90% of the fleet electric, but so imagine today you're putting in today the building blocks in place.
So, and that's a really interesting angle. And there's a couple of of aspects that I want to address in that question. So, one, it's emphasis on the name Tekor. So, the company that Xpedigo merged with to become Obibox was called Tekor Transport. That was Michael and Francois' company name. And Tekor stands for Transport Éco-Responsable. So, uh, they have been focused on reducing the amount of carbon emissions ever since they launched Tekal back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 2017, 2018. That's been a focal point on their end, and they've always seen it kind of more through achieving that objective, but using equipment. So converting gas powered vehicles to propane converted vehicles, which has a 25 to 35% reduction in terms of carbon emissions. And then, of course, as the battery technology evolved and autonomy grew for electric vehicles, to convert part of their fleet to electric vehicles. And on our side, we've always been focused on reducing the amount of carbon emissions, but through our technology. So our routing algorithms, reporting as well. So offering customers carbon reports in terms of carbon footprint per parcel based on our routing algorithms, and trying to densify. Even in our point to point model, we would dynamically try to create delivery hubs and pickup hubs, but dynamically. So as customers would post parcels, we would try to consolidate routes in real time, which was from a technological standpoint pretty challenging. So fast forward to where we are today. The first step in truly building our plan d'action climatique, so our I don't think I've ever said it in English, but our climate action plan, was to say, okay, well, what's the easiest point to address? Equipment on the road, right? You take a gas powered vehicle and exchange it with a battery powered vehicle. So we started there. We're quite proud to roll out our fleet of electric vehicles, and we started this summer. We have 21 100% electric e-transits on the road right now that are delivering in our density centers. So right now, Montreal, Sherbrooke, Ottawa gets snow. I think we have 2 in Drummondville and then Quebec City. So 21 in total. So that's kind of an easy fix, right? We took a gas powered vehicle and replaced it with an electric vehicle. That's kind of step one. But step two is really building our climate action plan and making sure that we have an ambassador within the company at the executive level. So actually, a couple of weeks ago, David Baudouin joined us as the 5th executive in the company, and his role, he is our chief sustainability officer. So he sits at the executive table with us. And whereas I'm talking about branding and marketing, Mike is talking about operations, Paul about tech, and Francois about finance, David is saying, guys, climate action plan, you have a commitment to be 100% zero carbon by 2030. So even our goal is kind of evolving. I know on our website it says 90% delivery zero carbon, and we're kind of hoping that battery technology improves by then, so even long haul transport can be electrified. But it really goes through a whole bunch of different aspects. Having somebody at the table with that in mind, reminding us of making sure that the decisions that we're making are in line with our carbon action plan or our climate action plan. And then the culture of the company, how we use our technology, the reporting, our own vehicles. So rolling out electric vehicles is one aspect. And then you were mentioned before that we have delivery partners, kind of like Intelcom. How do we manage our delivery partners to incentivize them to go towards electric vehicles as well? And we're working right now on that strategy for 2023. So it's a whole bunch of different aspects, but we have that though top of mind right now.
Yeah, no, I love the vision, Jordan, and I find how it's like also so um, mature for a company your size, right? I think you guys are like what, like between 20-30 million dollars in revenue from what I understand. So it's like, and you're growing quickly. So saying, hey, like on top of all of this, we're going to add someone to the executive team that's chief sustainability, officer. That's it has a lot of I want to say foresight. So yeah, hats off to you. I haven't seen too many companies that are 10 times or 100 times your size that think that way. So I think it's very like I said, it has a lot of foresight. In terms of your approach then to electrification, what are the biggest obstacles, the biggest like roadblocks that you're currently facing?
So when we started purchasing our electric vehicles, and this was actually Mike's foresight. So about a year and a half ago, one of our key partners contacted us and said, "Hey guys, I might have a couple electric vehicles for you. You guys interested?" And so Mike sat, when every Friday we have an executive meeting where we talk about different themes. And Mike said, "Hey, I think we might be able to get our hands on 5 electric vehicles. What do you guys think? But it's only going to be in a year and a half." So we kind of say, "Yeah, okay, sure. In a year and a half, we'll talk about it." A year and a half comes, and all of a sudden, it's not 5 electric vehicles that we have access to. I think initially it was 8, and then 8 became 10, then 10 became 15, 15 became 20, and somehow we ended up with 21. But so so we thought, and I guess logically we thought, well, it's the same thing, right? And a gas powered vehicle has 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and a box in the back to fill with stuff. An electric vehicle has 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and a box to fill with stuff. What's the big difference? And as soon as we started putting electric vehicles on the road, we realized it's fundamentally different. In fact, the only similarity to a gas powered vehicle are the characteristics that I just mentioned: 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and a box in the back. Aside from that, there is nothing the same. So right away, you're managing autonomy, you're managing climate conditions, you're managing the type of driver. Does he like to go fast? Does he like to go slow? The weight load, right? How much weight you're loading in your vehicle as well. And then the whole strategy behind charging. It's not the same as stopping at a gas pump, filling the tank, and then off you go until you need to fill again. There's ways to strategically use your electric vehicles to get more out of them in a day, as opposed to just loading them to capacity in the morning, sending them out on the road, having them come back at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon at 15% battery, and then charging them all night. There are different ways to manage your electric fleet strategy. And right now we're learning a ton, even the type of charger that we use. And then the interesting part, going back to that tech piece in our business, it's actually integrating the constraints to manage a fleet of electric vehicles right into our routing algorithms. So, and I'll give an example. The way that the driver uses your electric vehicle is going to have a huge impact on the autonomy of said vehicle. So it might actually make sense for us to develop some sort of an algorithm where a new driver who's going to be driving one of our electric vehicles takes the vehicle out for a spin, drives, I don't know, 20 kilometers. And since it's basically a computer on wheels, we can use the telematics of that vehicle and have some sort of an AI that analyzes his type of driving and say, okay, this guy likes to go fast. He's going to burn the battery within so many kilometers. Plus, it's in the middle of winter. Crunch all that into our routing algorithm and say, well, we can only fill that particular vehicle to so much weight and get so many hours out of it. So really start to optimize the use of our vehicles. And then again, we have 21. But let's say that a telecom company has 150 on the road. That technological piece might be really interesting for other use cases. And that's kind of where we're going with all of that right now.
Yeah, yeah, I love the idea. I love how you could leverage the learning of the real world, like atoms and electricity, with your software, right? So it gives another angle to your software where, like, you're not going to be the only, transportation company that's going to be facing the exact same challenge, right? So using that knowledge, like, and then programmatically encoding it into a software, I think that's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. Have you considered partnering with financial partners to grow faster? So like raising money or a strategic investment from like a larger company. So like, what are your thoughts on that today?
Um, that is also another big question, right? So we were fortunate in a sense that we bootstrapped the company quite far into the journey, I should say. And then we realized at some point, well, we realized after the merger that we needed to build quickly because there was an opportunity to grow. And in order to grow efficiently, we needed to invest in both our technology and in our operational infrastructure. So I'm going to say back in early 2021, we started what we ended up calling kind of like a bridge round. So we reached out to, I'm going to say an extended friends and family round, really. And family sometimes can be friends of the family as well, where we brought on a whole bunch of smaller investors that believed in the vision of having a tech ops company, knew us, usually close or far, and invested in the company. So we raised some capital from that perspective. We raised a little bit of debt with partners like PME Montréal, La BDC, which are two fantastic Quebec organizations to help businesses grow. Well, BDC, of course, is Canadian also, but within our scope. So a bit of debt, a bit of equity, and that was really to kind of put everything in place. So put the foundation in place to really scale the business. And we're at a point right now where we are scaling quickly, but we feel like we can scale a lot faster. So we're kind of getting ready for a growth round right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be at sort of a VC pitch or a VC pitch party called SAS North, where you basically meet VCs one after the other, almost like a blind date session where you sit for 15 minutes, pitch your thing, and then there's another one and another one and another one. But it's really just to make contacts and kind of prepare our real growth round. I won't go into details about what that'll look like because we're still kind of determining it, and it's that strategy is also influenced by market conditions as well. What was sexy maybe 12 months ago and what's sexy today kind of is not the same. Market conditions are evolving. People are a little bit more scared today. They look for some sort of stability. So whereas maybe to have an ops company and a tech company 12 months ago was confusing to a degree. Am I investing in an operations company or in a technology company? And the metrics for each type of business or the expectations are very different. Whereas today, maybe it's reassuring to have kind of a bricks and mortar component and a tech component as well. So people change, market conditions change, strategies change as well, and I think that's kind of where we're at in terms of funding, I guess, in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, very cool. You should add NFTs to your pitch, and then you're going to be gold.
I wouldn't know how to weave that in, but maybe. I mean, AI is definitely something that we're looking at on the technological side.
For
So
sure, for
we
sure.
have
Yeah,
kind of very, I'm going to say, light levels of AI right now within our routing software. But for 2023, now that the foundation is almost 100% in place, for 2023, we keep saying that's when we're going to start rolling out the sexy stuff. So we have some really cool technology driven plans for 2023.
amazing, man, amazing, so cool. Yeah, I was kind of teasing with the crypto joke. Jordan, I could probably bug you for forever, man, but like it sounds like we need to do a round two probably in a year's time just to catch up and see how you guys have been doing. Like, hats off to the growth at Obibox. So like, congrats, and I love the vision. It seems like you guys are just getting started, even though it's been a few years now. Final question: where can people learn more, connect, reach out?
I'm sorry, I missed the final question.
Where can people reach out, learn
Oh,
more about what you're doing?
LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect. Reach out. I try to respond to as many messages as I can. Sometimes if it's people that want to sell a product, I might refer them to the person that's more inclined to respond. So if it's a tech thing, it'll probably go to Paul. If it's an ops thing, it might go more to Mike. Um, when it has to do with finances or tax credit, that sort of thing, I'll respond or Francois will respond. And anything that has to do with customers, with insight questions, whether it has to do with the business or just anyone who listens to this podcast that is in a startup or looking to grow a company, I'm more than happy to share the good, the bad, and the ugly because there's so much to talk about, and I love sharing that aspect of the journey. So anybody who wants to reach out, more than happy to answer.